All right, welcome to a Thursday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder. Bill, slightly delayed start for us today, but we're back at it.
Let's go. Let's go.
Ready?
Better late than never.
Better late than never. Yo, last night was really fun. I mean, I know that there was some consternation in NBA circles about, especially like the inside the NBA guys were like, viewership is a little down. It's too many threes, whatever. Between the NBA Cup and last night, we're off and running.
Give me 50 burgers, almost 50 burgers, neon green floors, and guys that care. Look, I understand the sort of doom and gloom NBA talk right now, and I understand those guys in particular. Let's like real talk. Their show's going away. It sucks, right? They probably feel sort of betrayed by the NBA, who went to greener pastures, greener in the sense of money, not necessarily the color of grass. But like the game is good. Like the game is, I think the product is really good, and there are multiple interesting games and players every night. The old, like, remember when you had to go on League Pass and be like, what's a League Pass watch because I'm kind of bored and I want to watch some good player in a crappy team? I'm not even sure that paradigm holds, John. There's so many good games, so many interesting teams, everything, almost everything, not Raptors Bucks the other night. Almost everything feels like what used to be a League Pass
game that you had to watch. It was sensory overload for me last night. Later in the show, we're going to do early season apologies, some mea culpas on things we think we got wrong, and we're going to do team of the night. A lot of teams in action last night, so a lot to pick from. But as we alluded to last evening, 3 incredible performances. We got 2 50-point games, and LeBron made history again because of course he does. Of course he did. He always finds ways to make history. It's really kind of remarkable. Let's start with Wemby. So he goes for 56 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 3 blocks. It's the first 50-point game of his career, Bill. He's the 4th youngest player ever to score 50 points. And by the way, 8 of 16 from 3, which is a franchise record for most threes in a single game. He killed it last night.
And they're 600 or 600. Good. I'm good at math. They're 500. They're not 600. They're 6 and 6.
You know,
I think is why
fairness to you, 600, very close to 500.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're good, but they're gone in 60 seconds. They're bad good. They're like a good bad team. So this was talk we had on the podcast last week, Brad and I on Friday, and just in general in NBA circles, like, okay, Wemby's amazing, and he's obviously great defensively, but what can he do offensively? And sort of my view of this, and it's been a small stretch, and maybe he'll regress, is that he was always going to evolve into a superstar on both sides, and this is just a reminder. He's not going to hit half of his threes and take 16 of them, most nights, but it's a reminder that there's so much talent in there, and I think sometimes because he's so promised the next big thing and he's so good that we expect him to go from the kid that showed up last year to whatever the sort of equivalent is when he's 7 years into his career overnight. And he can't do that. But man, the development, the skills he's showing, the multiple ways that he's blowing the game away and dominating the game and different nights, last night being 50 points and offensive explosion. It's obvious, but this guy is everything that was promised. And even if he can't deliver it every single night in every single way, he has shown that it's coming, and it's coming a lot quicker than most guys in NBA history.
Yeah, I mean, the uptick in threes in the NBA is like pretty much across the board, right? I mean, we've seen like every team is trying to jack up as many threes as possible, and 3-point field goal attempts per game have skyrocketed. Obviously, Wemby's have as well. He took 16 of them last night, and some people were a little upset about that. And I think, early on, he did not get off to a good shooting start, Bill, but him trying this, and Pop and Pop is recovering from a stroke and we wish him well, but like the Spurs, the organization being like, go and do what you're going to do this season. It's kind of like, remember in Jurassic Park where the Raptors are testing the fence? Yeah. Right. And first it's like, it's got the electric current. And then afterwards they realize, and then they figure out how to open doors. That's kind of what this is. Like he's learning on the fly and oh no, the Raptors figured out how to open doors. It's kind of ridiculous. You mentioned your guy, Brad Bodkin, who joins you on Fridays. Last Friday, he was pretty anti-Wemby.
He was.
And I want to play a little part of what he said because since then, Wemby has gone like absolutely crazy.
I don't know if he's going to be a guy that you can actually build your offense around. I think that the hype is more to we've never seen anybody do this thing with size. And then Aaron, our producer, said this great on a text last night about the whole about the whole Jurassic Park thing. And
you both slandered him. Slandered him.
We get enamored with what somebody can do for their. There it is, right there. The meme. We get enamored with the fact that they could, and we don't stop to think if they should. Wemby takes a lot of shots and does a lot of dribbling and tries to make a lot of plays that when he does make them,
you guys are unbelievable
because of his size. Yep. But you can't run an offense through a 20% 3-point shooter.
This is
you both at Jurassic Park.
Both at Jurassic Park. And also your face, knowing you, having done the show for almost a year together now, your face while he's getting that takeoff was hilarious. Can I just run some? First of all, tomorrow you absolutely must bring this up to him and make him answer for his sins.
I've got a. Isn't it you tomorrow?
Oh, that's right. It's me tomorrow. Man. Good thing you mentioned that.
I have a colonoscopy tomorrow. Everybody should do it. It's good for your health, apparently. I'm already pissed off I haven't eaten, but I will not be. I'll be miserable tomorrow.
I forgot. Okay, I will make him answer for his sins. This is good to know. I have to plan a show for tomorrow. Since he mentioned this in his last 5 games, let me just run past you what Wemby has done in his last 5. He's shooting from 3, 40.5%. He is averaging a points and rebounds double, and he's averaging 5 blocks per game and almost 2 steals per game.
In his last 3 games, his 3-point shooting percentage jumps to like 54.5%. I mean, by the way, I like to credit us because Wemby's a very sort of intellectual, interesting. He's obviously a beyond the arc watcher. And obviously Brad pissed him smooth the you-know-what off. No, dude, by the way, I'm glad that we played that clip because producer Aaron shares and stuff. You should have seen the slander on this text string I had with these guys. Wemby, they didn't say Wemby sucks, but they basically in NBA speak said Wemby sucks, Chet's better, and the response. And here's the stat that I threw out, and I just want to bring it up again because now we're 21 whatever years into LeBron's career. He's amazing. We're going to hit later in the show even more history he's making. Mm-hmm. We take for granted his greatness, but I think there's a comp here. They're different players, but LeBron was promised as the chosen one, and now Wemby, all these years later, is promised to be all-time great. And so is LeBron, and LeBron is now the greatest or second, whatever. He's it. He's there. His first year in the league, LeBron, different time, guys. He shot 29% from the 3-point line. The focus probably wasn't there. People probably didn't care. But the point is, it just takes time sometimes for guys to come into the league and hone what skills they have to hone. And Wemby's going to be more focused on his 3-point shot in 2024 than LeBron was in whatever it was, 2004, 2005. And Wemby showed last night, and not just last night. You gave us the stats over the last 5 games. Of course he can do it. Of course he's going to get there. And all this doom and gloom that Brad was reflecting, not hot taking, right? This was definitely a view out there, and producer Aaron had it too, that Wemby is not good offensively enough, or he's not this or that. That's not the point. The point is he's going to be, and he's showing on different nights in different ways that he is Thanos style, not Jurassic Park style. Thanos style, inevitable.
We're getting all of our pop culture references.
All of them.
For him to be this, I think I understand what Brad was saying, and I understand, producer Aaron, I don't think thinks that Wemby is bad so much as he thinks that Chet is better, and Chet is a very good player. What I'm saying is that for Wemby to be this good now, what does that project to be at 23?
That's
like what Ant is doing, right? Like, okay, so the curve here, he's so far ahead of the curve, Wemby is, that like at 19 for him to put up 50 points and be the 4th youngest player ever to do that. And we already know he's an incredible, otherworldly, all NBA defensive player. What's he going to be when he like really figures out his body and how to maneuver himself offensively?
I'm going to answer your question by way of praising you a lot and me a little. That's what I'm going to do.
I love
He's going to be unequivocally very soon beyond debate. So at the timeline you're talking, the best player in the NBA. Maybe not 2 years from now, but it's going to be where Joker can be doing. He's going to be the best player in the NBA, and it won't even be a question, which means that you crushed it potentially this year in our top 100 list before the season started at CBSSports.com. When you put him as a top 4 player, I think it was
third.
4.
I had him third,
and I had him 7. Right, and we were that's not unreasonable. Last night's game, it's not an unreasonable thing because he looks like Joel Embiid from last year when Embiid had that stretch in that game last night. And the Spurs are 6-6, which I don't think we should sleep on because I can't remember their win total, but I think it was in the 20s. And I remember saying to you, like, I think that they can fight for a playing spot. I think they won't get in, but they'll be. I know they're 6-6. Like, it's also, I know they're beat like the Wizards, but they're beating some bad team. Whatever, man. Like, he doesn't have any help. Chris Paul looks like he should be in a freaking nursing home right now. I mean, it's not like this team is really, really good. And Wemby is still at times being good enough in various ways, right, to win games. To answer your question, when he figures out how to wear this cape on his back and gets his arms around his powers, I think he's going to be very early in his career and for a very long time, unequivocally the best player in the game without a lot of debate.
This is what he should be doing at 19 years old, trying to figure out what kind of player he can be offensively and defensively, because the Spurs have had a better record than I think some of us, certainly I, anticipated this season, but nobody projects them to do anything significant in the Western Conference this season. And for his age, go out and test some stuff, right? Like, it's kind of like the NBA equivalent of being a freshman in college or whatever. You're supposed to go out and figure out what you're interested in and make mistakes and try new things and meet new people. And then as you get older, you figure out what you like and like who you are. That's what he should be doing now, because in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, certainly, maybe much, much sooner than that, he's going to be a fully developed product and everybody's going to be put on notice and it's going to be game over for everybody else. I mean, it kind of already is defensively. Not even kind of, it is defensively.
That level of talent and promise with already daily, nightly deliverables on the defensive side, and then you drop 50, what that must do for the confidence of a guy who's that naturally talented and already dominant. To your point, part of the beauty about being a freshman in college, you're right, is also just like going for it in certain scenarios, right? I'm going to walk up to that girl that I would never have talked to in high school because who cares? And it goes well. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize that that was something that was accomplishable. Not to get like too personal, right? Like, right? And she has red hair. And her name is, right? It got weird. That's okay. Well, like, I just think like what it unlocks for him earlier and what it shows him that he can do, because he has all the talent and he's gonna have to refine some things. It is a warning. You know what it is? It is a warning sign to the rest of the NBA. It's a huge. You're right, John. It's not this year, but it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be 2030. I mean, the Spurs are going to be great, and he's going to be unstoppable in a way that really impacts the game very soon.
He put people on notice last night. I had the HQ hits last night, and Hakeem was asking me, if this kid is making, he's not going to make 50, he's not going to crank up 16 threes and make 50% of them every single night, right? But the idea of him being able to get that shot off is incredibly helpful for the Spurs and dangerous to opposing teams because, as Hakeem mentioned, who's stopping that? There's literally nobody in the NBA who can block that shot. If he's pulling up from beyond three, beyond the arc with that size and that reach and that wingspan, like there's literally not a player in the NBA who's going to be able, maybe Chet, I guess, maybe.
He makes Kevin Durant look small. And Kevin Durant's the unguardable offensive weapon when he's healthy. Yeah. That's out there. That's a great point by Hakeem.
Yeah, it was. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're gonna discuss the other 50-point game from last night, which was Giannis going crazy, and then LeBron. What a delight! He continues to be amazing. We'll get into that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
Saturdays at 3:30. It's big time. Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can leave us a comment on this episode. Just look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode. And you can tell us what you think about the show or leave us a question. Giannis last night, Bill, we were worried about the Bucks. And then all of a sudden the Bucks have won back-to-back games for the first time all season. Didn't have Dame last night. They needed Giannis to go full Giannis mode, and he did, because they go to overtime. He was everywhere. He went for 59 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. Most points by anyone in the NBA so far this season. Did we bury the Bucks too soon?
No. By the way, no. Are you kidding? It's the Pistons. They had to have Giannis score.
It was the Raptors before that.
Right. So Giannis had to score almost 60 points. He had to outscore the opposing team by himself in overtime. And he had to have a Pistons player. There was a second left, but basically tie game over at the free throw line, missed 2 free throws.
Yes, Ron
under
Holland.
the sort of youthful duress of, oh my God. all these Bucks fans are so mad. I had one guy today tweeted me, like, come outside. I thought about going to my front yard to see if he was, get outside, sports writer. It wasn't on Blue Sky where you pointed me to. It's much happier over there. No, look, they have an easy stretch. We talked about this yesterday. Their next now 9 games are against 8 teams that are under 500 and Houston. And Houston's a good team, but they're not supposed to be as good as we thought the Bucks were going to be this year. So these are winnable. These are winnable games. And you can get to like an 11-10 sort of record if you sort of roll through most of these teams. But you almost lost to the Pistons. I mean, you should have lost to the Pistons on a historic night for Giannis. So I'm still red alarms for me on this Milwaukee team still.
I think the Pistons might be slightly friskier than we thought. You know,
they are fun.
They've had some wins this year. You know, they beat the Lakers in a game. They've had some other like pretty close calls where you're like, oh, you kind of got to play these guys hard. But yeah, you're right. They're still the Pistons. You mentioned this on yesterday's show that this upcoming stretch for the Bucks is absolutely critical and could very easily define what happens with them this season. So they got the Wiz next. Then they're at the Bulls, home against the Nets. Then back at the Bulls and Pacers, home against the Nets and Blazers, and then at the Raptors. These are all of them winnable games.
Yeah. So if you include last night's win, which again, they barely won, I think I'm being a little, their next 9 games, including last night's win, 8-2, I think is pretty doable, even if you trip up a little bit. You get yourself to a good place.
What do you think? I mean, obviously Giannis really had to go full superhero mode last night. It hasn't gone well. He's gotten a lot of heat. You know, he did the psych handshake to Jaylen Brown the other day, and people were giving him flack for that. He got a little chippy with a reporter and said, for whatever reason, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. You can go. Do you think any of the pressure is getting to him, and that produced a, hey, I'm gonna put the cape on moment?
I don't think it's getting to him because I think he's played well, right? I think he has reacted strangely.
I mean, as a positive motivator for this kind of performance.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I'm the one that put the report out, so I know it's true. But I think that there's a desperation to keep him, and I think he is desperate for it to work in Milwaukee. I think he'd like to believe it's going to work in Milwaukee, and the best way to make it work in Milwaukee, especially when Dame is out, is to play as well as you can. So I think he's probably responded to it, but I think as much he's responded to they started 2-8 and then they got to 3-8. What are they now, 4-8? If I'm doing that right,
they're 4-8 now. Yeah,
that's still a really awful record for a Milwaukee Bucks team that's supposed to be better, right? So
it is.
I think doing what all superstars do on teams that believe, right or wrong, they're championship level teams. When you start this kind of start, he is trying to carry his team. Normally, this happens later in a year where guys get hurt, or you're just tired, or there's a lull, or you sort of things crystallize, you start to fall behind wherever you want to be. It's not supposed to happen 12 games into the season if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, but I think it's more about him being an actual legitimate top 3 player in the game, seeing his team as a disaster, hearing all the noise, and just deciding, all right, to hell with it. I'll carry these guys. I'll do it.
He did last night. He looked amazing. One more major performance from last night that we absolutely have to get into was LeBron in a win last night at home against the Grizzlies. 3rd straight triple-double. Bill, he is 39 years old. That makes him the oldest player in NBA history to record 3 straight triple-doubles. The previous record was also his.
I saw this.
He broke his own record. Bill, he set the previous record for oldest player to record 3 straight triple-doubles at 34. He waited 5 seasons and did it again.
So I was going to use that on the radio show this morning, but then I didn't because I hadn't verified it, and I didn't want to be Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if you saw this, where Aaron Rodgers got tricked by a made-up ex.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to we're doing apologies later. I'm just saying maybe or maybe not, I have to offer one up to the person we're talking about now, because I may have, was a hot take Tuesday. There was some reason I had to say this. There was some overreactions on Tuesday. Yeah. I sort of thought that there was a potential for LeBron to age very quickly and very painfully coming for us. And that obviously has not happened.
He's having an outrageous season.
As I said those words, he's just like, bleep you, all you doubters. I don't like, I've spent literally my entire NBA career starting with covering LeBron and talking about him all the time since then. I'm sure you have too. He's LeBron James. I don't even know how to properly express anymore my awe or just, it's not normal. Just like what Wemby's doing isn't normal at the start of a career. It isn't normal that LeBron is doing this at the end of his career as a guy that is at the age that I don't even know what to tell you, man. I should never doubt him. It's stupid to ever doubt him. When he's 50 and still playing, I'll stop doubting him.
In the Olympics, I was reminded, it's kind of at this point at 39, when we've had LeBron in our life for so long, we shouldn't be surprised / like wowed by this stuff, but I constantly am. And I was reminded of it during the Olympics when he was like the feature guy. That was his team in like every possible way, from like how he was, conducting himself with the guys off the court to how he was conducting himself on the court, moving all the pieces around, whatever. And I was kind of reminded about that last night when I was watching him, and I was just like, it's so fun to watch LeBron dominate. And it's like, there's that added bonus of him doing it at 39. It's just like, man, I hope he plays forever.
I love the Olympics point. Cause to me, like, okay, I watched it. We did the podcast together. Mm-hmm. We talked about it, but my takeaway, and maybe it was the wrong takeaway, was also on top of what you just said, like, okay, LeBron could do this in these bursts. And if he was on a really good team and could kind of do what the Spurs did back in the day in their last championship and rest him, if he played 25 minutes a game and then he had these bursts in the playoffs, maybe the Lakers could be dangerous, but LeBron can't do this over the course of an entire season. Come on, the Lakers, and I had the Lakers outside of our play-in predictions. But he's doing it. He's doing it in November. And this guy's always known his body and sort of the limits of it and how to manage it better than anybody else. And so maybe what he did in the Olympics is actually somewhat something he can replicate over longer stretches in the regular season this year. I didn't think that was true, but whatever. He's LeBron James. And I think that's the big question. I know he can do it for a smaller set of games where he, like in the Olympics, knows this is the time and I can go to that level. But if he can do it pretty consistently at this age over the course of an 82-game season, yeah. I mean, we've never seen that in sports. With all respect to Tom Brady's win with the Bucks, that was a different deal in a short, like this 82-game season at the age he's at. It's crazy.
And we should know, we have mentioned it previously on the show, but it's important to mention now just because of the record that he broke, his own record, and set last night. This corresponds with a move that, like, I don't think it was necessarily intended for it to go this way, because JJ got upset with D'Angelo Russell and moved D'Angelo Russell to the bench. And all of a sudden it was, okay, well, we're just going to have LeBron bring it up and play point LeBron. We'll see how this goes. And Cam Reddish gets inserted into the starting lineup. And now all of a sudden, like, everybody is reminded of how good that offense can look when it's point LeBron. And the primary guy he's looking for every time he comes down the floor is Anthony Davis. And those two guys are just taking over, which is kind of the model when they won the bubble chip. I wanted to mention this to you, though. I don't know if you looked at the box score from last night. So I thought moving D'Angelo Russell to the bench would be, like, one, you get point LeBron, which obviously the returns on that so far through 3 games have been really good. Then I was like, okay, well, you had a bench scoring problem anyway. D'Angelo Russell is one of your better bench scorers. Won't this kind of solve something, right? Last night, Dalton Knecht played really well. He had 19 points, made all 5 of his threes. He played 31 minutes. Cam Reddish in the starting lineup played 23 minutes. By the way, Cam Reddish was a -12, by far the worst among the Lakers. D'Angelo Russell played 20 minutes. What is that about, do you think?
I mean, I think you hit on it. I think one thing about JJ Redick that's really interesting so far, I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness, I think it's too soon to tell, is he can't hide his disgust. And it's one thing that you can't hide it from the media to the media, like, whatever, okay, we can do. He can't hide his disgust for D'Lo. He can't hide his disgust in the moment where he slams his chair down. So I don't think he likes that player very much.
Trouble.
I don't think he likes him. And I don't think D'Angelo Russell's the kind of guy that responds well to right. I'm not there behind the scenes. You're not, but couldn't you, if JJ Redick, criticism or not, I don't know if it's good or bad. One of the things about JJ, and I know you know him and like him, I certainly know people who know him and don't like him. He provokes a lot of reactions. He wears his thoughts on his sleeve. He's a pretty straight shooter. And so if he's not masking behind the scenes to D'Lo, I don't like you. I don't like the way you're playing, or I'm put out with you. And D'Lo's putting it back. Maybe you just don't get as many minutes. I mean,
I'm looking at the box score from last night, and so Knecht was hot, so he gets 31 minutes. And
that was good to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're riding the hot hand, and I think he could get some more minutes here. Gabe Vincent was bad last night. He's been bad basically all season, and they didn't have a backup big, really. They ended up playing Koloko because Jackson Hayes was out and Christian Wood isn't around. So you would think that would like redound to D'Angelo Russell getting some run. But yeah, 20 minutes, fewer minutes than Cam Reddish, who was terrible and has been terrible.
I
since
so
Cam's
want
put it into
Cam.
the
He's
starting
been
lineup.
terrible since he came in the league. And I keep waiting for him to.
Me too.
Let me circle back and ask you a question.
Weird.
I did too. I'm pointing LeBron because I asked this of producer Aaron the other day, and I'm curious what you think. So, trying to think of the times I've really seen this happen. So he did this in his first year in Cleveland, which was what, 15, 16, where it didn't work for a while with Kyrie running the offense, and they let LeBron do it and kind of switch roles. And they weren't very good at that point under Blatt, and then it worked. And they did it again in the bubble year, where I think LeBron played a lot of point LeBron. But there's always been this worry that it's going to be a wear and tear problem for him, even back in those seasons. And then we just talked about his age. Do you have any concerns if point LeBron is point LeBron as the plan going forward, that it wears down a guy who's not 26 years old?
Yeah, of course. I definitely have concern about that. I would say though that you've hit on something here. The Lakers have, that they play better when they're running the offense this way. And if they're going to do right now, they're the 6th seed. They're 7-4 in the Western Conference. Western Conference, as we mentioned, is absolutely loaded. What do you want to do this season? Do you want to be a middle of the pack, like no chance to win anything team? Or do you maybe want to like be a little pluckier than people anticipated, certainly than you and I anticipated, and maybe like do something in the Western Conference? I think you got to gamble on it and just like you hope that his body holds up, because if it does, you could beat anybody on any given night, and you're not going to go into the playoffs like you were last year, just like waiting to get hammered.
That's true.
I think you just have to go forward.
Yeah, and you don't. I mean, depending on where you fall in the play-in, whatever's going on with injuries, you don't want to play the Thunder, right? Assuming the Thunder win, it's a full avoid. And maybe I'm getting too in the weeds and we're overthinking it. If you're JJ who overthinks everything, I think in a good way, you can also strategically rest LeBron in certain spots against certain teams where Anthony Davis can and should be able to carry you some nights on his own to some wins here or there, right? Or
those two really serving as each other's wingman. Like last night, Anthony Davis was in foul trouble. And that's part of the reason why LeBron went on and got his 3rd straight triple-double. It was like, okay, I'm going to have to take this over. And there are nights when the reverse is going to be true, and it certainly was earlier this season. Before we go to break, I want to ask you a question. I was doing this on Blue Sky last night. We're building an NBA community over there. So for everybody watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, come and join us on Blue Sky. It's building. And I got some interesting answers. So I'll ask you, put the 3 performances from last night in order from most to least impressive between Wemby, LeBron, and Giannis. It's tough.
I know it is tough. Okay. So this is like start bench cut.
Yeah, start bench sit.
Yeah, I like it.
Or start bench cut. Yeah, that makes more sense.
I'm gonna go Wemby as the most impressive, and some of this is probably just because it is not that we didn't know it could happen, but it's new. I've not seen Wemby do this, and I'm in awe of him even when he doesn't play well or he plays okay. And so that was the most captivating to me. And he's a young dude I know they didn't play a very impressive team, but he's carrying a team to a win, right? That is significant. I'm going to go Giannis second, and that probably should be first because it was almost a 60-10 game. Because he single-handedly won that game where, as we've talked about, Milwaukee needs wins. They need W's, and they should have lost because the Pistons should have just hit a free throw and the game's over. And then I'll just put LeBron at the end because I know he's old, but he's still LeBron James, and I've seen him do so many triple-doubles. I don't feel the same overwhelming sense of awe, but it's a great question because they're all amazing. It was all
you could put them in any order really, and there'd be no wrong answer. I went Wemby 1 for the same reason you do. He's young. We're really seeing him develop, and especially because there was some chatter, some whispers about why is he shooting that many threes. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'll show you why I'm shooting so many threes. Then I'm going LeBron because I am still wowed by it. I mean, yes, we've seen it so many times, but at 39 last night, I had such a good time watching him play basketball last night, and we get paid to do this. So we're going to do it anyway. But I was actually enjoying it. I was like, man, what a marvel that guy is. And then Giannis last, and that's no disrespect to Giannis. I think they really needed that full effort from him to win 2 games and like try to dig out of this hole that they've built for themselves. But those 3 together, absolutely ridiculous. We have a poll up on our YouTube page right now. You can find us over at Beyond the Arc CBS. Go over there, check out the poll. It's basically this question: who had the most impressive performance from last night? Wemby, LeBron, and Giannis. Go vote on that. We're going to take another break, and then when we come back, we're going to do some apologies. This is Beyond the Arc.
Feeling too nice, hands in the sky.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. A reminder that you can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. And because we are live Monday through Friday at noon Eastern, hit the little bell symbol and that'll notify you when we go live so you can come and join us every day, Monday through Friday on the show. Yeah, it's very exciting. So we talk basketball every day, Bill. We have some takes. We think that we can like game out what's going to happen.
Right.
It's not that far into the season. And you came up with this idea. It's the first time we've done this. You're like, we should really do some apologies because we've gotten a lot of stuff wrong. So here's some early season apologies from me and Bill. You go first.
Let me do the shortest one first because we just hit it. We just talked LeBron, but I did say on the show a week or two ago, he might not be a top 35 player at the end of the year. I apologize to LeBron. I apologize to my ancestors. I apologize to my parents. I apologize to my teachers. I apologize to the people who taught me how to cover the NBA for a living. I apologize to everyone that knows me. LeBron probably going to still be a pretty good player at the end of the year. I'm sorry, LeBron James.
I mean, I know we're all waiting for him to age out of this thing, but doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. And I have mentioned this before. When the athleticism does go, what we're seeing from him right now as point LeBron, I'm super excited for the late game career LeBron, no athleticism, to just kind of do that in like slow motion. I think he'll still be good at it. Mine's just a team one on this first one, and that's the Warriors, who, like an idiot, I was like, Clay's leaving, the window's closed. I'm not buying them running a 12-man rotation. I had them out of the playoffs when we did our preseason predictions. Bill, I have a pretty good feeling they're going to make the playoffs. They're 9-2. They're third in offensive rating and fourth in defensive rating. And Steve Kerr was right. He said early on, we're deep, we're going to be good. And I was like, are you though? And so far, like, we've seen it. Especially in that game against the Mavs the other night. Now, obviously, helps to have Steph Curry, but those bit players around him are pretty good.
I'm just going to pick, I have them written down on my list. I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. By the way, what a job by the front office. I know we've talked about the Warriors, but like, just some credit to that front office post Bob Myers. Felt like Bob Myers jumped off. I saw him the other day. He looked real happy not to be a GM anymore. I saw him at, I don't even know what, some Clippers game, Lakers game. Bob Myers felt like he was getting off the ship as it was hitting the iceberg. Yes. He really did. Yes. And the way that they've been able to make the difficult emotional decision to move on from Clay, manage internally Steph and Draymond to whatever degree that was necessary, and get the pieces you just mentioned, you're right. And I owe the Warriors an apology too, because I had them in the play-in, but barely. And I thought they were going to be basically an afterthought with every now and then a little bit of Steph doing stuff that was cool but meaningless. And I was wrong.
Bob Myers, by the way, on the broadcast the other night when he had that game, the Mavs game, the Clay game, and he's like, man, it's amazing how good the Warriors have become now that they've gotten rid of the old GM. So I thought that was a nice bit of self-deprecation by Bob Myers. All right, give me another one.
All right. I'm going to apologize to Kevin Durant. And even though he's injured, I don't think it detracts from how wrong I was, because when we do these top 100 lists, I'm aware that this is a recipe to feel like an idiot. We do these top 100 projection. How good will these guys be at the end of the year? And I felt good about putting Wemby at 7. You put him higher at 4. I dropped Kevin Durant not only out of my top 5 or 6 or 7, where most of our colleagues at CBSSports.com had him. I dropped him out of my top 10. I had him at 12. Now, he's obviously injured now, but he was playing kind of like LeBron, right? He's not as old as LeBron, but they're wearing the tear, and Phoenix wasn't as good last year. And I mean, he was an MVP. He was one of the best players in the game until he got hurt recently. I mean, he was, and you talked about his clutch stats, and I think he was 10 of 11 on clutch field goal shots to really reverse last year's Suns trend of being awful at the end of games to being this year amazing, and got this team off to a start where it looked like they were going to be also a surprise. So Kevin Durant, you can ball. I'm sorry. You don't even need to get on a burner counter. Like, come at me. You can just, it's fine. I got it wrong. I am sorry.
Well, it's not like you had him, 50. You had him just outside the top 10. I had him 7 or 8, somewhere in there.
It felt low when I did it, though,
Yeah. I mean, but, these lists are hard to do, and they are open to interpretation, and they do set us up for failure. And, we do those things. This is supposed to be our apologies on behalf of ourselves. I'm going to take a little liberty with this, though, and go third-party apology. I'm going to apologize on behalf of Nick Nurse to Jared McCain, because I don't know if you caught any of this last night. Jared McCain got his first start. They lost to the Cavs. there's no shame in that. The Cavs are 13-0. But Jared McCain got his first start last night. And in his first start, he had a double-double. He had the most points by a rookie this season, Bill. He went for 34 and 10 assists and 2 steals and 6 threes. In the history of the NBA, only 2 other rookies have had that stat line. Do you want to take a guess? I know you don't really like trivia. I won't put you on the
I'm
spot.
so bad at trivia. You could be like, what are the name of your kids? And I would freeze and say Sarah and Steve, and that's not their names.
34 points, 10 assists, 2 steals, and 6 threes. He joins Steph Curry, who
I would have guessed Steph Curry. I would have guessed LeBron just because LeBron, but that can't be right.
And that's a good guess too. The other guy is somebody that you wouldn't guess because he wasn't a good shooter at the beginning of his career. The other guy is Jason Kidd. That's really, really good company.
Oh, that's it.
And yeah, I mean, that's amazing company. And the reason why I'm apologizing on Nick Nurse's behalf is because it took Nick Nurse this long to be like, wait a minute, that kid down at the end of the bench, we've had a lot of problems scoring the ball and we haven't been a good passing team. And how can we open up the offense? And only by virtue of Tyrese Maxey hurting his hamstring, only by virtue of them being a hospital team where a lot of guys were out of the lineup last night, did Jared McCain end up getting put into the starting rotation. And Nurse was asked about it last night. And it was basically like, yeah, I got to find a way to get this kid in. So he looks really good. Even odds right now with Zach Edey for Rookie of the Year.
Wow. You must now come on. Can you lean into some positivity on this then? Can you
on him? Yes.
It won't translate to okay.
I don't know that it's going to translate. They're 2-9. They did still lose last night, but he looked really good. And I think Kyle Neubeck, who covers the Sixers for PHLY, was talking about we're past the point of saying, does this kid go back to the G League? We're past the point of saying, can this kid get some minutes at the end of the bench? We're past the point of, can he be in the rotation? The question now is, are you thinking about starting him alongside Maxey when he comes back?
That sounds like it translates to me. That sounds like turnaround time. That's not turnaround time.
Here we go. That's how it happens. Let's do a couple more.
I got one more. Okay, I want to apologize to Milwaukee Bucks fans for my report on Giannis, because I forgot that people don't want to be told the truth anymore if it makes them feel unhappy or uncomfortable. And I forgot that that's my fault that
shouldn't have done that.
People around the NBA are really excited about the ability of taking Giannis. Let me next time, as my role as NBA insider, just try to let you live in blissful ignorance and lie to you so you feel better about I apologize for having I can't even read some of these. I apologize for having the audacity to tell you the truth about your team. I will try to do better. I forgot that we live in a world where everybody wants to just believe what they want to believe. I'm sorry, Bucks fans. That's very sincere.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a tough world out there, and I don't think anybody in Milwaukee expected them to get off to a 2-8 start. But maybe, with the Raptors and the Pistons, and we mentioned their schedule earlier, maybe they'll start to dig out of this hole a little bit. I'm also going to apologize to a team, and this is for me jumping off the bandwagon slightly too early or being a little nervous. Last year, I was super high on the Rockets. Coming in this year, I was high on the Rockets. I had them as a play-in team, high play-in team, and I thought that Ime could end up as a Coach of the Year candidate. They got off to a slow start, and I went, man, I might have jumped the gun on this thing. I don't know. Well, I'm back in. I'm all the way back in. They've won 5 of their last 6, and they're 8-4, and they beat the Clippers last night. And this is the team that I thought that they could be, where, at some parts of games, it's Alperen Şengün. It's some parts of games, it's Jalen Green. Oh, by the way, here comes Tari Eason and Amin Thompson off the bench. And they, if Amin Thompson ever figures out how to shoot and even hit a couple threes last night, it's game over because that kid does so many other things well. But I just love how deep they are. And also how it's not like one main guy. Like every single one of those guys, you remember the old saying, on any given day, there's one person who's it on Twitter. It's generally a negative. With the Houston Rockets, it's a positive. Any game, it could be any of those guys.
I like how you're apologizing for sort of doubting the team you got right.
I jumped off. I was just a little nervous.
You were putting 1 foot off. You were kind of slowly putting 1 foot off the bandwagon as it turned the corner.
I got back on before it left the station.
You were still on there.
They're jamming, man. And again, they're just a really fun team to watch play basketball. I like how they incorporate everybody.
If you supercut this pod over the course of the next however many 6-7 months, what you're going to have is a reminder of how bunched up the East and the West are going to be, because you're going to have these sort of swings, these changes. You're outside of a few teams, and maybe with injuries it'll be fewer than we thought. Everybody's going to be bunched together. The line is so thin right now.
Speaking of injuries, real quick, because the Lakers beat the Grizz last night. I know that Ja's week to week with a hip. He was on crutches. Don't love that.
No,
I didn't realize it was a crutches situation. I was like, oh no, that week to week thing might be playing a little fast and loose with the injury report. All right, let's do team of the night.
I'm going to go with the Bucks, and I don't mean this as sarcasm, even though I know I just did a sarcastic thing. They are desperate for wins, and the combination of the way that Giannis played and the good fortune that they were able to escape the very end of regulation and then just kind of run away with it in overtime. I don't know what's going to happen in Milwaukee, and I'm not really high on that basketball team, but it doesn't make me right. You just can't be losing games like that and then get to a point where you start to drop some of these other easy games. So I may not, but I think we could look back, and beating the Raptors and then beating the Pistons could be really significant to turning things around. And Giannis almost went for 60 to make that happen. And that is even if beating Detroit doesn't feel like, oh my God, we're back. It's not like you went into Boston and beat the Celtics or whatever or Oklahoma City and OKC. It could end up being really important for that team if they get hot and they play well and Lillard's back and things to go well. So that's a big win for Milwaukee. Good job, guys.
We are get out of there. My dog is getting into a plastic bag.
Get in there.
Get out of that plastic bag, dude.
I lock the cats out.
He doesn't let me lock him out. He just came over here. So we're putting together a team of the night leaderboard. And this is the benefit of doing a live show. You get to see me yell at my dog. We're putting together a team of the night leaderboard. I don't know who's on it just yet or who's won, however many times. I'm fairly confident this is the first time that the Blazers have made team of the night. I'm going to take the Blazers here. Okay. They just won back-to-back games. I don't know if a lot of people, this was on their radar because there was the NBA Cup and then, all these three teams or all those three players went off last night and we were all focused on different things, right? The Blazers just won back-to-back games against the Wolves. This is mostly one, congratulations to the Blazers. I'm not sure you wanted to win back-to-back games against the Wolves, but it's mostly an indictment of the Wolves who have won 3 in a row or lost 3 in a row, Bill. They lost to Miami without Jimmy, and now they've lost 2 to the Portland Trailblazers. They are not a good team right now. Dante DiVincenzo, who I was super high on and had at the top of my could be a 6th man of the year candidate, cannot throw it in the ocean right now. Bill, they did not lose 3 straight games last year until the second round of the playoffs.
That's a great
Now they've already done it. Yeah.
This will probably serve me up for another apology, but it's way too early. But neither of these trades look great so far. And I know Cat looks great, but neither of these teams are playing amazing basketball, the Wolves or the Knicks. I mean,
we should mention, by the way, we didn't even mention on any other night, we would have talked about Cat went for 46 last night. Yeah. They lost the game.
It was great.
Josh Hart made a boneheaded foul late and put Kobe White on the line for 3, and that's how they ended up losing the game. But yeah, Cat was awesome last night. But man, I was very excited about the Wolves this season. I've watched almost all of their games. We were talking earlier this week, I think it was, where I said, are you buying into them being a team that's good at offense and just kind of good at defense? Because I believe earlier in the week, I have to go and check the stats now, but early in the week, they were 5th in offensive rating. And you were basically no, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
You might've been right here. This might not be a great way for them to play.
I mean, so here's the thing. It's so early, right? It's still so early in the season that I don't want to make any sort of bold conclusions beyond the ones that I've already had to apologize for. But I am worried. I am worried about Minnesota and to a lesser degree, New York, but the Knicks too. It's keep an eye on with a level of concern. I know, obviously it takes some time for stars or new pieces to integrate. And in Minnesota's case, you've also got a superstar leaving, right? So it's not just it's not like Julius Randle's a superstar or DiVincenzo's a superstar, but they are having to replace in theory in the aggregate, a big player. And that stuff does take time. I'm just skeptical that when that time passes, it's going to be as successful as people were hoping.
The vibes were so good for them last year. And now this year it's a little bit off. And somebody had made this point on Blue Sky too, that Dante DiVincenzo, the vibes were awesome for him last year. And now he's on a team where the vibes aren't necessarily great for him or the team. And I think eventually the shot's going to fall, but I'm a little concerned about the Wolves right now.
I'm glad you brought that up. So on the radio show today, Joe Theismann was on. It's a football conversation with him, but he was making this case like that he can walk through a locker room, he claims, and he can know if a team is going to be successful or not over the course of a year because of the vibes. And I was asking him, like, do you really think vibes are a thing? And he sort of walked me through as a former player why guys liking each other and body language and just sort of like chemistry, how those things 100% translate. And it's just hard for people like us to break down because we're not in those locker rooms. When we're in the locker rooms, the vibes can also be different, right?
Sure,
so,
right.
But it's a real thing, and you could see it with the Knicks on the floor. Like it was so demonstrably true that they liked each other, and there was joy and there was trust, and all these like words you can throw out there if you're not sure. But it doesn't make those things not important or not true. And it's a worry. I think it's going to work. But I think it's a worry for the Knicks. Something
for us to keep an eye on and potentially bring up when we do overreactions on Tuesday. All right, that's gonna do. That's gonna do it for us today. Normally, Bill would be back tomorrow. Bill is out tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. It's a good thing that you mentioned that to me because I would not have come to work. I will be on with Brad Botkin tomorrow. We wish Bill Godspeed. For now, for our NBA insider Bill Ryder, I'm John Gonzalez. I thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.